Hey dude, would you want to come join me on a grand adventure through 7 colorful zones as we use tag team mechanics to play as our favorite Sonic combinations?
No.
Oh, I'll get you next season, just you wait.
Huh? Where am I? Oh, Spyro. Ah!
The mid to late 90s was the beginning of a new era of gaming, the jump to the third dimension. With it, various companies were scrambling to find their footing in this new generation of gaming. Sony is no stranger to this. While no official mascot was decided for their new flagship console, the PlayStation, they did have one deemed the unofficial mascot, Crash Bandicoot. While the console would never have an official one, many mascots would come to exist during this generation. Just a couple of years into the console's lifespan, we were introduced to another in the form of a small, feisty purple dragon, known simply as Spyro the Dragon.
Spyro!
Correct, my friend, who I in no way, shape, or form trapped here against his will to force him to review this game with me as payback for saying no last time?
Right! Please help me. Anyways, Spyro the Dragon was created in 1998 by Insomniac Games, previously known as Extreme Gamers. The company was known for making one game prior, a first-person shooter known as Disruptor. To put it bluntly, the game was not received well, and one name change later, Insomniac would throw their hands into the 3D platforming craze.
Spyro the Dragon was Sony's take on the type of open-ended 3D platformer inspired by Nintendo's own Super Mario 64. Where Crash was known for linear hallway-like level design, Spyro was designed to be something grander. It would have vast, open levels, sandboxes to collect various items in and forge your own path. It was the labor of love created by Ted Price.
The game originally would star a green dragon, simply named Pete, before the color was changed to purple, as Pete was known to blend in with the level design too much. The name Spyro was given in order to avoid potentially infringing on Disney's Pete's Dragon.
Much like Crash, Sony went all out with marketing Spyro. Clearly they put a lot of faith in the little guy, so let's see if his first game still holds up.
The game opens with a group of dragons being interviewed by an unnamed reporter. Said reporter asks the dragons about their world and treasure, before shifting the topic onto a creature they refer to as Nasty Nork.
I'll take that question. Nasty Nork is a simple creature. Simple! He has been contained in a remote world and is no threat to the Dragon Kingdom. No threat! Besides, he is ugly. Ugly? That does it!
A big mistake on the dragon's part, as Nasty Nork was watching the interview unfold and quickly takes offense to the insults that were hurled his way. In a fit of rage, he casts a spell, turning all dragons to stone. Well, all except for our protagonist, Spyro, somehow missing him entirely due to his short stature. With the dragons turned to stone and Nork on the prowl, our mission is clear and our adventure begins.
As the game opens up, you are greeted by a vast grassy plain with many different paths to take. You'll immediately notice the dragon before you. Stepping on the platform surrounding it will free the dragon. Freeing said dragon will then prompt you with a cutscene. This is the bulk of the game, saving the dragons. They are your most important collectible to find across the 6 different realms. The realms are as follows: the Artisans, the Peacekeepers, the Magic Crafters, Beastmakers, Dreamweavers, and finally, Nasty's World.
Each homeworld is broken up as such. The main homeworld, where you'll learn all about the various gimmicks set across the world's levels. 3 full levels where the bulk of the exploration will take place. 1 boss level where you'll be tasked with taking on a unique creature of foreboding size, and a unique type of level called Flights. Your main goal is to save the dragons while collecting treasure along the way in order to reach the next homeworld. In order to reach the next realm, you'll have to locate and speak with the balloonist, who will require certain milestones to be met, such as having rescued enough dragons, gems, eggs, etc.
These dragon eggs are in a much smaller quantity, and your only means of collecting them is to track down thieves, hidden in various levels. They'll taunt you from afar, but run away if you get close.
What's your name? What? What is your name? Tony! You, Tony!
You must chase them down and flame or ram them in order to collect the egg.
Spyro has a few different moves at his disposal to make these various tasks a breeze. His most useful ability is Breathing Fire. This is your standard attack for taking out smaller foes. Some foes, however, have metal armor and will have to be taken down by his secondary attack, the Charge. By holding down the square button, Spyro will charge forward at a faster pace than his standard run. These moves are important for taking out enemies and breaking open various chests to collect gems, the secondary collectible.
The charge attack, however, does have its limits. Since Spyro is small, he can't charge into larger enemies. It works effectively against smaller enemies, but you'll want to use Flame Breath against the larger enemies.
The charge can be a little too loose to control at times too. That extends to Spyro's most helpful platforming skill as well, the Glide. By pressing the jump button twice while in the air, Spyro will glide across gaps, whenever it chooses to work. The problem with the game's glide is the delay in the button. I would press X at the peak of my jump and I swear the game would just choose whenever Spyro can glide, or barrel off a cliff.
The last move in your arsenal is a rather useless dodge roll. By pressing the L1 or R1 buttons, Spyro will roll left or right to dodge attacks from oncoming enemies.
A move so useless I forgot to use it and had to record footage of me using it so you would have a visual on screen.
Spyro can gain 2 temporary power-ups during certain levels. Supercharge, which allows Spyro to charge at high speeds and tear through metal with ease. The other is Super Flame, which gives Spyro a flame breath so powerful that it can destroy metal enemies and chests with the press of a button. In order to use it though, you will have to find a magic fairy who grants Spyro the ability temporarily with a kiss.
One of my favorite levels in this game is Haunted Towers. In this level, you'll utilize both powers, and with some clever use of the supercharge and some fast reflexes, you can find a hidden room where you'll be granted permanent super flame for the rest of the level. Such a satisfying reward to discover. I would often wait until the very end to collect things so that I could just do one giant clean sleep with a powerful breath at my disposal. Outside of standard gameplay, we have the previously mentioned flight levels. These unique levels see Spyro being granted infinite flight and being tasked with flaming a certain amount of things before the timer reaches 0. If completed in time, you'll be rewarded handsomely with gems.
I personally enjoy a challenge that involves flying around, torching things, and getting rewarded as a result. I find that pretty satisfying. But we haven't even talked about the bosses yet. Well, if you can even call them that.
This game has bosses?
Pretty much what happens here is that you torch the boss, they run away, torch them again, they run away, torch them again, and bam, they're dead. They hardly even feel like bosses at all, unfortunately.
All I hear is ho ho ho.
The exception to this formula is the game's 4th boss, Metalhead. This large metallic beast is charged up with electricity. He'll electrocute various antennas on the floor, and the only way to defeat him is to wait for the opportune moment to charge into them. He'll throw various enemies at you in an attempt to stop you, often sometimes throwing them at the antennas himself and making your life a whole lot easier. After 2 phases, he'll go down. He's probably the most enjoyable boss in the game, but really that's not saying much.
Hopefully an aspect that they can improve in the sequels.
These flights and bosses are all the variety you'll get in this game, as Spyro the Dragon is a very safe game in terms of gameplay. However, that doesn't make the game bad, or even boring. In fact, the simplistic design of the main levels is why I find myself returning to it so often.
Even as a kid, I always enjoyed playing this game, and all these years later, I still enjoy it to this day. I even made a top 5 list dedicated to Spyro a couple years ago.
While my number 1 spot is reserved for a game we've yet to discuss, I can't deny that the first Spyro is my comfort game. A relatively easy, yet fun adventure from start to finish that is easily replayable.
But we're not done yet. There is still one more thing we should talk about. When you complete the game 100%, which means you have to collect literally everything, such as gems, eggs, and rescue literally every single dragon, of course, which will occasionally say,
Thank you for releasing me.
aren't you gonna get upset? At the, phrase?
Nah, I've been playing this game for over 20 years. I've heard this phrase thousands of times. You want to see someone get mad at it? That's your guy. Hexes.
Thank you for releasing me.
Hex him! I've moved on. it can't hurt me anymore.
Oh, thank you for releasing me.
Getting back on track. After reaching 100%, you will unlock a secret level called Nasty's Loot, where all the gems are hoarded. All you have to do is hunt down some thieves, unlock some doors, and collect every bit of treasure you can. You can even get to fly freely while doing it. The height of your flight is determined by how high you take off from. The various keys will unlock higher terrain, giving you more of the level to explore. You'll eventually unlock Nasty's treasure room, capping off the game with an explosive reward.
Personally speaking, this is one of my favorite rewards for completing a game. It's simple fun. Collecting gems is my favorite thing to do in a Spyro game, and having a level with thousands of gems, all of which are 10s and 25s, is oh so satisfying. Backing the level is one of my favorite tunes in the game.
The soundtrack is probably the most memorable part of the game. It pretty much just screams Spyro the Dragon whenever it plays.
The soundtrack was composed by the one, the only, Stuart Copeland, drummer of the band The Police. Ah, my beloved. Copeland would sit down and play the levels to get a good feel for the music that fit each perfectly and would compose them effortlessly. And I do mean that.
They pay me for this.
After saving all the dragons, torching Nork, and raiding his loot, Spyro has saved the Dragon Realms and is deemed a hero. Though the ending seems to imply that Nork is still kicking and sets up for a sequel. A plot that never came to be. Spyro the Dragon is a simple game, with very basic objectives tying the adventure together. You could say this makes the experience bland, but what I come back to Spyro for is not just the gameplay. When I return to this game, I'm reminded of the beauty in the worlds. Heck, one of my favorite things to do is to just stop and stare at the gorgeous skyboxes. These mini playgrounds are wonderful to explore with a sense of scope you wouldn't see in many 3D platformers at the time.
Spyro has always held a very special place in the hearts of fans, and I personally grew up with the franchise without regrets. It's a deeply personal series to me, and it has been a huge inspiration for the content I create. Thank you, Spyro.
These were some of my first games, so I may be biased, but I think Spyro is one of the most brilliantly designed platformers. But while Spyro 1 was good, it could definitely be improved on. The question is, would Insomniac be able to do so in just under a year?